So, it's been 5 years since I did my Cultural Index video on the Gorn. Wait, 5 years, oh my god. And in that time, Strange New Worlds has added a lot to the species, giving them an updated look and more views into their worlds than ever before. With that set to continue, this video might need another update in a year's time, but I'll cross that wormhole when I get to it. After running a quick poll on my channel, it seems that the majority of viewers of SNW feel that the Gorn update was needed, so after some asking, here's an index addendum covering new lore for the Gorn. The majority of the last video drew on extensive beta canon content, books and games and the like, to flesh them out and paint a picture of them, but now we have some greater details from the prime timeline of the shows. So, the Federation was aware of the Gorn by 2254, but only through second-hand reports from Gorn raids that often left no survivors. So Starfleet was learning of the hegemony's reputation, but had little actual experience in dealing with them. This would change in the later 2250s and 60s, with several skirmishes with them and major encounters of Cestus III in 2267. So, the Gorn themselves hatched from eggs, and in the 2240s they reserved planets dedicated to their life cycle known as breeding planets or hatchery worlds. Unfortunately, their species needed to place the eggs inside of a live host that would incubate before a juvenile Gorn would emerge. This process depended entirely on the biology of the host, and the time it took could vary from months to days. Humans only took several days to mature a young Gorn, and when they hatch, well, they have to tear their way out, if not extracted medically first. These young Gorn are only around a few inches in length to begin with, and they're very wiry. While able to chew through flesh at this scale, their primary defence was to run and hide, as they were born physically precocial but mentally little more than instinctual animals. Over the following days, sometimes hours, the infant Gorn would feed and grow in size and intelligence, shedding its skin several times depending on the availability of food before entering the next stage of its life. At this time, the Gorn closely resembled its prior form, but was quadrupedal and marginally more intelligent, however still operating primarily on base level instinct. Adult Gorn did not seem to take care of their young actively, allowing them time to develop their predatory instincts and skills on their own until they began to develop the mental acuity needed to join Gorn society. The young often fought for dominance in a pack rather than teamwork. They retained their agility and speed, which also was augmented by their ability to spit a natural venom. However, this venom also contained residual eggs which could be sprayed onto another host. Assumedly, these eggs would never mature if the host was eaten, but once a host was infected, even young Gorn could sense the incubation and would avoid killing a host. This vicious time of their lives led to a survival of the fittest mentality among them, with rapidly developing traits passed on through natural selection, such as immunity to telepathy, aiding them in the hunting of psionic species, and even sensor immunity to a limited degree. The selection and instinctual migrations of the Gorn seem to be linked to stellar phenomena, with high stellar activity triggering their patterns. This was because alongside a written and spoken language, the Gorn communicated through light, conveying simple messages via light signals, and their young learned this before other forms of communication. Ideally, this was all contained to a Gorn breeding planet where Gorn would bring live prey and drop them planetside. When the young Gorn were ready, a ship would set down and pick them up, where presumably they would have to learn and be educated in the ways of their civilization. After all, this bestial side of them did not persist beyond their youngest years, and it seems that the Gorn were an intelligent spacefaring species that operated ships and technology on par with the Federation's. However, their predatory behaviour certainly stuck with them. The Gorn were very diverse in their adult forms, but some constants were their height at around 2 meters and green coloration. Some had tails, while some were more muscular, and others had compound eyes, although Apocrypha has mentioned that these eyes may actually be a technology covering commonly worn as a heads-up display. Spines ran down their skull, back and tail for those who had one, and they were far stronger than a human, even overpowering Vulcans in combat. Additionally, their scaly hide was incredibly durable and bolstered by a powerful skeletal system that could easily withstand impacts. They breathed standard M-class atmospheres, but abhorred cold climates which slowed down their metabolism like many reptilian species. Technology employed was on par with Starfleet's tech, even though the hegemony was far smaller. Their vessels had powerful shielding, and they favoured disruptor technology as many species do. Universal translators, transporters, and warp drive were also a match for the Federation's, but their scanning equipment was inferior. Then again, Starfleet sensor systems are kind of some of the best around in pretty much any era. Starfleet's history with the Gorn is a troubled one, considering they were highly territorial and had attacked planets that they considered within their space several times in the past, mercilessly killing all in their way before establishing their borders. These acts were conducted with no warning in an aggressive act-first mentality, but what's more, they would often indulge their predatory instincts. A common Gorn tactic was to wound its prey, to be then able to track it back to its nest and find more food. This applied to their starship ambush attacks too, as they had been known to leave ships in distress before hiding and waiting for help to arrive. If their opponent went into hiding, the Gorn tactic was to apply pressure and throw themselves into the brush, as it were, to flush out their prey. All in all, the Gorn did not fight, they hunted. Gorn doctrine was very much a predator's survival of the fittest regime, which as mentioned began with the dominance fighting of their young and persisted into their adult life. Ships that were crippled or a burden to the hegemony were often discarded so that only the strong survived, ensuring the survival of the whole. In much the same way as some lizards were capable of losing their tails to ensure their own survival, I guess. In the mid-23rd century, Gorn attacks were common but seldom reported as Gorn because there were no survivors. La'an Singh was one of the only recovered individuals from the Gorn's actions for a long time. Targets of Gorn attacks included Finbus 3, the colony vessels SS Puget Sounds, and an M-class world visited by the USS Peregrine. They also attacked both Parnassus Beta and Cestus 3 for being in their territory, while threatening the Galdontaire system. Additionally, they had destroyed the USS Cayuga and the USS Stardiver for trespassing. This was a very harsh time for the Gorn relations with the Federation. However, it would not last, and by the late 24th century, the hegemony was no longer considered hostile to the Federation, with Memory Beta content even suggesting that Starfleet sought them out as allies against the Dominion. That did not work out, but still it's a far cry from the hostile and predatory actions of the early Gorn. I'll refrain from going into apocryphal content here, however, as it may all be disregarded as we learn more, with them clearly set to play a role in Series 3 of Strange New Worlds. However, I will say that genetic engineering, extragalactic origins and more are all on the cards for them and covered in the original Gorn Index video. So, thanks for watching this Index Addendum. For my part, I'm enjoying the more reptilian look to them. It feels far more alien, but we'll see what else is in store for this species. Until the next video, I've been Rick, thanks again, and goodbye.